asking the questions mainstream journalists will never ask. This is your Richie Allen Show on richieallen.co.uk, Fab Radio 2 in Manchester, and triggerwarning.tv.
Right, well, Hayden Hewitt, friend of mine, colleague, was on the programme last week, maybe the week before, maybe, and we talked about something very serious. We talked about the 20th of June, which was today, and that the European Union would be voting on Article 11 and Article 13, rules governing the internet and changes to the way the internet works. Hayden was saying that if those rules which deal with copyright, if they were approved, Hayden said it basically destroys the internet as we know it and is a massive nail in the coffin of free speech and freedom of expression. Guess what? The European Union committee in question has indeed approved 2 new copyright rules, the ones that we talked about last week, Article 11 and Article 13. Now, Article 13 has been roundly criticised by campaigners, many of them well-known people who have worked in the internet arena for many, many, many years. They are saying that from now on, well, coming soon, because of this vote, coming soon, internet companies will be forced to ban memes because all websites will be required to check everything posted by you against a database of copyrighted work. And if you are deemed to have infringed copyright, your post will be flagged and it will be removed. Now, The Independent writes today, sadly no longer in print, sadly only online these days, sign of the times. The Independent reports memes, which often use images taken from films or TV shows, could be removed by websites. Campaigners have said that automated systems at YouTube have taken down innocent posts in the past. Now it's going to be on steroids with this new legislation, with this new vote. Some sites might not be able to maintain the new complicated infrastructure and they might not be able to function. Companies and sites have already had to shut down, according to The Independent, as a result of the European Union's new GDPR data rules. So a host of internet experts have opposed this. A lot of them, like Jimmy Wales, Wikipedia co-founder, Tim Berners-Lee, who's the man credited with creating the internet, they've said this is terrible. By requiring internet platforms to perform automatic filtering all of the content that their users upload, Article 13 takes an unprecedented step towards the transformation of the internet from an open platform for sharing and innovation into a tool for the automated surveillance and control of its users. And that was from an open letter published by more than 70 experts, including the ones I named. This is terrible. For programs like this, there are other programs like this, for independent journalists who put information in the public domain through blogging, through their websites, this is terrible. I'm going to park it for now. We might get into it more on tomorrow night's programme, but it's an issue that's going to run and run in the weeks and months to come. Other big story of the day, we'll take a little trip over to Sky News now, shall we? Big story of the day, Anna Botting at Sky News reports. You'll hear her talking about the Brexit. This is the big story today about the meaningful vote and the amendments. And Parliament today voted on amendments suggested by the House of Lords to the EU withdrawal bill. You're going to hear from Anna Botting at Sky News. You'll also hear the Brexit Secretary David Davis, and you will hear Tory rebel and staunch Remainer Dominic Grieve, the former Attorney General. Anna Botting first.
The government has avoided a revolt over Brexit following last-minute concessions to Tory rebels. Ministers were facing the prospect of a defeat over their opposition to attempts to give MPs a meaningful vote on the final Brexit deal in the event of a no deal. But last-minute assurances from the Brexit Secretary David Davis led to lead rebel MP Dominic Grieve pulling support from his own amendment.
You cannot enter the negotiation without a right to walk away. If you do, it rapidly ceases to be a negotiation. So the Lord's Amendment undermines the strength of the United Kingdom in negotiations. Now, there are plenty of voices on the European side of negotiations who seek to punish us, let's be very clear, and to do us harm, who wish to present us an unambiguously bad deal. Some to dissuade others from following us, and others who would do so with the intention of reversing the referendum or making us lose our nerve and rejoin the European Union. If it undermines the UK's ability to walk away, this amendment makes this outcome more likely.
So that was Brexit Secretary David Davis, who said, and who could argue with him, the Lords can't force the government's hand. The Lords can't introduce amendments that would make it impossible for the government to walk away with no deal, because it takes leverage away from the government, right? So here's Dominic Grieve, the former Attorney General. He is a staunch Remainer and led the rebels today and in recent days. Dominic Grieve.
The meaningful vote I was seeking was never a meaningful vote of a mandatory kind. It's what the House of Lords sent us back and what we considered and what then led to the negotiation with the government. Of course, I realise there are going to be people who, because above all they're so passionate about Brexit being a bad thing, which I have to say I share. I think Brexit's a really bad idea. They keep on hoping that there will be one of these turning point moments in the House of Commons where suddenly Brexit will collapse because the government loses on the vote. But I'm afraid that's simply not the case.
It is the case. Dominic Grieve, there, the Attorney General.
What kind of fuckery is this?
I don't know, Amy, I just don't know. Well, Sky's political editor Faisal Islam explains it, or does he? What are the concessions then? What are the concessions? What are the concessions given by Theresa May today that prevented the rebels from voting against the government? What concessions did she give to Dominic Grieve that led to Grieve supporting her today? Answers on a postcard. Well, Faisal Islam tries to explain it.
You're absolutely right. It did require a form of concession. It wasn't the biggest concession in the world. It wasn't written into the face of the bill. It was a written ministerial statement that appeared about 20 minutes again before the debate began. And it sort of attempted to... It all hinged on the idea of whether or not this meaningful vote, if it comes in January, whether or not the Commons could change it, whether it was amendable. That's what this was about. Because in theory, that would give the Commons the power to say or to indicate pretty clearly to any government that was planning on no deal, no, you can't. We've got better ideas. You can extend Article 50, maybe join a customs union in the interim. We don't trust the power that you have. That was the intention, and essentially what the government said was they conceded that it possibly could be amendable if the Speaker agreed to it. Now, if you look at the statute of the House of Commons, it's pretty clear that a neutral motion, as it says in the motion, is not amendable. So it requires some sort of change of procedure. So it looks like it would be pretty unlikely that you'd be able to amend it, but certainly some of the Remainers think that it is a sliver of light for them, that they've won a small concession, but in return the Prime Minister got her bill through.
Did you understand any of that? No? Well, I think you're probably not supposed to. Jesus Christ, it's anybody's guess, maybe. Both sides are claiming victory. Stephen Hammond is a pro-European Union MP who eventually sided with the government. He said ministers had agreed to give Parliament a real say on the outcome of the negotiations. But International Trade Secretary Liam Fox said nothing had changed and the option of a no-deal Brexit had been left on the table. Who's telling the truth? Well, before this vote today, the actual debate was centred around what would happen in the event of three separate Brexit scenarios. Those scenarios being if MPs vote down the UK-EU Brexit deal, or if Theresa May announces before January 21st, 2019, that no deal has been reached. And thirdly, if January 21st passes with no deal being struck. So, under those circumstances, the government said today a minister will make a statement in Parliament setting out the proposed next steps. MPs will then vote on this statement, and according to the government, this vote should be on neutral terms, with MPs simply noting what has been said. Do you understand any of that? But an amendment backed by the Lords on Monday went further, saying that MPs should have to approve the minister's statement. And the Department for Exiting the European Union, headed up by David Davis, has now conceded late in the day that ultimately it will be up to Commons Speaker John Bercow to decide the matter at that time. Lovely. John Bercow, how wonderful.
Get a grip of yourself, man. Come. Take up yoga, you'll find it beneficial, man.
We're not going anywhere. It's a circus. We're never leaving. We were never going to leave. We never will leave. Alan Sugar, Jewish businessman, Zionist, unashamed Zionist, it must be said, host of The Apprentice, which was an American television show, hosted, of course, by Donald Trump. It's been on in the UK for many years now, and he presents it. Well, he's been criticised today for an unhelpful and ignorant tweet where he compared Senegal's World Cup team to sailors on the beach in Marbella. So what Sugar did was he posted a picture of the Senegalese team, and next to the team he put pictures of sunglasses and handbags. He thought this was amusing. Spends a lot of time in Marbella, does Sugar. I never met him when I was in Marbella, and I lived on the Costa del Sol for many years. We didn't move in the same circles. What was he trying to say? Well, he was trying to say that all black people look the same. Maybe. I have no idea. No idea whatsoever what he was trying to say. If you live or have lived on the Costa del Sol or visited there frequently, you will from time to time, in fact, you'll quite often meet young men hailing from Africa and elsewhere, but largely from Africa, selling handbags and compact discs, I sound very old-fashioned, and sunglasses and stuff like that. Sugar deleted the tweet. He apologised and said his attempt at humour had backfired. Now, Sugar is an arsehole. I've no time for him. He's a world-class muppet, Alan Sugar. No interest in him at all. Another one of these farting, burping lords who wants to subvert democracy and vote down the decision to leave the European Union. But that's not just the only reason why I don't like him. There are many reasons why I don't like him. He's an idiot. And he's not got much of a sense of humour. There wasn't very much funny about the tweet. Really, I didn't see the funny side of it anyway. The BBC said that they had told him that it wasn't good enough or something of that effect or to that effect. He said he had misjudged it. There were hundreds of critical responses, including many Twitter users accusing him of racism. Twitter was unapologetic for a little while, saying it was funny and that it had been interpreted in the wrong way. Later on, as I said, he apologised. What did Show Racism the Red Card say? Well, they said this lazy, stereotypical and bigoted kind of attitude belongs to a bygone era. The World Cup is a celebration of different cultures and brings people together from across the globe. Lord Sugar's unhelpful and ignorant comments go very much against the spirit of this unique occasion and are probably best kept to himself. Show Racism the Red Card. Stan Collymore played for a lot of teams. Played for Liverpool, played for Nottingham Forest. I think he played for Aston Villa. Did he play for Leicester for a time? Played for a lot of teams. Talented player back in the day. Stan Collymore is working for RT. He's at the World Cup in Russia, which is going on right now. And, well, Stan is just furious.
Disgusted, upset, but not surprised. And Lord Sugar is seen as a liberal voice So for me as a black Briton that can go back 30, 40 years ago when I was a child and suffered horrific racism, to see it all coming out today and people not making genuine apologies and actually going the other way and outing in the most stupid, in the most demeaning way their racism. And this is at the very apex, let's not forget, of British society. This is a lord, he's a Jewish lord, and I tweeted later on, if this was a black Briton that would have tweeted something similar about the Israeli national team, he would be fired. He would certainly potentially be arrested. Alan Sugar has taken down the tweet and it will be carry on regardless. I'm not happy. I know a lot of journalists in Britain are not happy across the political spectrum. He needs to now come out and make an apology, and I'll put this challenge to the BBC. Are you going to keep Alan Sugar as the host of The Apprentice? Do you think allying elite level athletes from an African country to beach sellers is anything other than racism? And if it is racism, he has no place on British television.
He has no place on British television, says Stan Collymore. Here's the problem with that. Stan Collymore wants him fired from his job and he wants him exiled off of British television screens. Now, I don't like Alan Sugar and I don't watch his programmes. But here's the problem. Stan Collymore beat the living shit out of television presenter Ulrika Johnson in a bar in Paris in 1998. Absolutely battered her from one end of the bar to the next. Do I get to judge Stan Collymore? No, I don't. Who am I to cast judgment on anybody? Collymore has apologised for it. Apparently he sought help for his behaviour. And apparently he's come to terms with what he did and moved on. But he's on television, isn't he? Stan Collymore works for a number of radio networks. He works for RT, and he's often heard or seen even on British television commenting on football matches. You're not in much of a position to be demanding that a man is never seen on television again when you, maybe, as I said, atoned for what he did to Ulrika Johnson, maybe accepted he was wrong, maybe got help for it, but his career wasn't destroyed because of it. This is the problem I have with this Twitter PC policeman bollocks, that we are seeing newspapers, lazy journalists are scanning Twitter for outrages and turning those outrages about the most innocuous things, turning them into tabloid newspaper stories. Do you know the joke is on Alan Sugar here? These Senegalese football players, many of them play in European leagues in France and in Belgium and in Spain and in Portugal, where they earn 30, 40, 50,000 euro a week for playing football. These are smart guys. Many of them speak several languages fluently. My partner ran her own business in Spain for several years. We met many of these gentlemen, often from Senegal, often from Nigeria, often from the Congo, from everywhere. Smart guys. Really smart guys. Articulate, smart, intelligent guys who, because of through no fault of their own, are in Southern Europe and are working the beaches trying to make a few bucks. Do you think any of those guys would really be offended by a fat, lazy, useless, Zionist bastard like Alan Sugar? Really? A hateful, racist, apartheid-supporting scumbag like Sugar? Really? Who cares what Alan Sugar says or what he does, or the memes that he puts out there having a go at Senegalese footballers? Do you think they'd care? They don't give a shit. So you don't care either. Ignore him. It's none of your business, number one. Stop taking offence on behalf of perceived minorities. These guys are not defenceless. They're not victims. They are world-class football players with mega contracts. Not to mention endorsement deals. Bright men, like I said, often bilingual, multilingual, polyglot. Polyglot some of these guys are. But let's have a Twitter storm. Let's demand that Sugar is banned. Sugar is disgusting. But just because somebody is disgusting, just because he's an idiot, Let's not try and have him banned, because where does that end? Where does it end? It ends with you being banned and you losing your job because somebody deemed something that you said to be offensive. Wake up to this shit. Stop taking offence on behalf of people. All you're doing is marginalising them and making victims out of them. These people don't need your help. They're well able to look after themselves.